Hey guys, welcome to Shit Chat with Em and Matt.
Talking bodybuilding, business, and babies.
And that's shit with S-H-I-T, not chit chat.
This is episode number 1, and we're coming to you hot with some really cool topics today around Easter, around lack of commitment, and around also, what was the last one? I forgot, it was in my head.
That's why we write down the dot points.
And weekends, and why they're so important in terms of your goals. So, which one do you want to start with today, Matthew?
Whatever you want.
Let's go with...
I can't even see it. She's got it all the way over there. I can't even
You
read
put it
that
over
far.
here, thank you very much.
What's your phone? It's right.
Let's talk about Easter, because that's coming up.
Yeah, the stigma around Easter, it's just like Christmas. Everyone freaks out when we have some holidays coming up. And when it comes to their, health and fitness goals, they're like, I don't know what to do. And a lot of the time it's based around gaining weight. So I think, Emily, you created some content this week around Easter and managing that. And the real, I think the take home here straight away is for you to gain 1 kilo of body fat, how many calories was it?
7,700 calories. That is a lot.
That's a lot in one day to be consuming,
Above your baseline as well.
That's correct. Above your baseline, what baseline being maintenance calories.
Yeah.
So it's a shitload of calories. It can be done. However, having a chocolate bunny is not going to do that. You will see weight fluctuations from day to day. That's perfectly normal, And if we have some refined sugar, alcohol, and that, typically you will see a fluctuation or an increase in weight. It's not something to freak out about. We need to understand how these fluctuations work. So when we get to these holidays and you want to have some chocolate, for goodness sakes, just have some chocolate. What you need to, and we laugh about this, what you need to be aware of is like being gluttonous, There's a difference between sitting there with your family and friends, having your chocolate bunny or a couple of Easter eggs, enjoying that moment with your friends and family, with your kids, as opposed to just feasting on chocolate all day.
Yeah, and I think this comes down to setting your environment up well for it. Instead of going to the shop and buying 3 giant bunnies for your partner and you, and a big bag of Easter eggs and then another bag, and then going to another shop and being oh, there's cream eggs here, and there's these ones. Just be mindful of how much you're having in your house. And we're not saying restrict, because it's not about that. It's about finding moderation. I don't think a lot of us probably grew up with that being modeled to us. I know that in our family we probably did, because we didn't have the surplus of money to go spend on all of these things. But maybe there was other families that, this time of the year was a time to be gluttonous and to just go hell for leather. The same as Easter. But it's about reprogramming ourselves and reprogramming our families and learning different habits in those settings. And I think it starts with you and just going, hey, Luna doesn't need 2 big bunnies, 4
44 little Cadbury eggs.
She just needs a bunny and an Easter egg, and that's it. And maybe she'll do a little Easter egg hunt. And then I'm on prep, so I'm not going to have anything this Easter, but it's not a big deal. But Matt will have a big bunny, maybe a little one, and then some little ones during the day. And that's it.
It's probably a lot of chocolate for me, to be fair.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but I can't eat too much of it these days.
And we don't need to drag that over 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I know some people already, they have Easter eggs in their house, and it starting in bloody February, right? So it doesn't need to be done, and it doesn't need to be something that we worry about.
No, I don't think you need to be eating chocolate. On that day, Easter Sunday, where typically everyone does eat chocolate, you enjoy it for that day. And then again, if you have a couple more eggs left over the next day, finish it off. That's probably you being conservative. But you don't need to be eating it for the next 3 or 4 preceding days, just because it's there. So.
And then sometimes I think it's also about stepping back and being what is this holiday about? Is it about sitting around and eating chocolate? Is that what it's about? No, it's about spending time with your family and going out for a nice breakfast. And maybe it's about also pairing the chocolate situation with a meal. Go have your breakfast and then have some chocolate after. Or
get some protein in. So get some real food in first, and enjoy some chocolate instead of just eating chocolate. Obviously, chocolate is
down and just
highly palatable, so you're going to be wanting more. You can easily eat a lot of it. It's quite calorically dense, so just be smart about your food choices. A lot of people freak out about even just not just the chocolate side of things, but having alcohol as well, and hot cross buns. And again,
I really don't feel like alcohol should be a main thing of Easter though, right?
No, people do. It's holidays, people go camping and that. So
enjoy yourself.
Enjoy yourself. It's a couple days. You're not going to break the bank.
No.
And you shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to put yourself in that position. Like, that's just stupidity. So I think you can pull yourself up on that. It's common sense.
I think one thing that you can maybe lead into Easter with, like a mantra that I've been actually telling a lot of my clients, is like, what is healthy? You know, what is healthy for me? And that's going to look different. It's not like one size fits all. It's like, what is healthy? Is having like a carton of beers over Easter healthy? Probably not. Like, is sitting there and just eating a shit ton of chocolate healthy? Probably not. Like, having a little bit of here and there. Like, so yeah, just guys, I think like conclusion to that topic is use moderation, use logical thinking, don't go overboard with it, but enjoy yourself.
Yeah. You know, enjoy your family and friends, your kids, enjoy the moment. Yeah. Be active. Like, it's a holiday. If it's 3 or 4 days over the weekend, get out of the beach. If you're camping, get outdoors, kick the footy around, do some sport, have some activities, exercise, you know,
and
in conjunction with the food that you're eating. You're not trying to out-train the food, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying be active like you normally would.
And also, gosh, that just slipped my mind. This happens quite a lot at the moment. That's all right. Fuck it. Next one. Okay, so...
The old brain farts. I'm really in contest for
the weekends and why they're so important in terms of results. And I had this down as a thing to focus on just because I actually had a few clients this week, might I say. And this is actually directed at you guys. Sorry about that. But more so like they're in a deficit and they weren't tracking on the weekend. And why is this so important? Because some of those days could be like over calories. And then you have like ruined your deficit for the week by having 2 really high days, and then you get to Monday and you're like, why the fuck am I not losing weight? And it's because you overate on the weekend. So it does matter. But the main important thing here is like understand your goal, understand where you're at, and then understand the approach that you need to take. Because someone in a deficit, someone in a maintenance, and someone in a build, the approach to their diet and what we expect may be slightly different. So it's not to say like if you're if someone that's a general population client just looking for fitness goals, you need to be 100% on the weekends all the time. Like, no, that really comes down to like a conversation with your coach about like what does it look like for you to get results. So Matt said that before. I was going like, oh, it doesn't really matter too much if like a person at maintenance is tracking on the weekend, and he's like, it does.
It depends on the goal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think. If you're at maintenance and you're just trying to optimize health, you know, and be more active, if you can nail Monday through to Friday and then on the weekend, you maybe do want to take a step back from tracking, but you're still making informed decisions about the food that you're eating. So to understand informed decisions, you need to be spending time tracking. So you have to have that experience to make them informed decisions on the weekend. And you can happily do that without having to feel the stress of going, what am I having here? And it might be like, I'm going to have 3 meals. Breakfast, I'm going to prioritize protein, get some fruit in, micronutrients. Lunch is whatever I'm going to have. And dinner is quite relaxed where I have a family and friends. Or you go out for dinner, or it could be a barbecue and stuff. Yeah. So you don't need to stress about that on the weekend. You're still active, and that'll work fine because we're just trying to maintain a body composition or a look or how you feel at that maintenance level. Whereas if you're in a deficit, like Emily said before, it requires a specific approach to get that desired result. So you need to be accurate. Monday through to Friday, you work your ass off, you're on point. You get to the weekend, you fuck it. Like, there's nothing worse. And you get frustrated the next week and you're seeing the scales not moving or slightly increasing. You're like, what's going on here? I'm no longer in a deficit. So I've just worked my ass off from Monday to Friday, but I couldn't have been fucked to track on the weekend and prepare my food on the weekend. And now I'm left here. You've only got yourself to blame. So you have to understand what you're trying to achieve and what Emily said, I'm just reiterating, what is going to be required to do that. And then mistakes, guys, this can be made in the build phase as well. You are on point all the way through the weekend, and then you're out, you're active on the weekend, you go to the beach, you catch up some mates, you do something with the family, you miss meals, you're under. So you're not going to be in that surplus required in order to continue building muscle. So again, you're just taking away from your potential results that you can achieve. So we need to ensure, if you're in a build phase, that we're not missing meals on the weekend. Let's be real, it can happen, it does happen in build phase, but we want to try to reduce that as much as possible.
Yeah, so I think like for most people, if they are tracking calories and protein, especially on the weekends, that's going to be like the bare minimum for people in a deficit and for people in a build. In a maintenance, like we said, you could probably have a little bit more flexibility because again, we want to learn how to manage our nutrition outside of tracking as well. And I think in a maintenance, I'm just going to say for my clients, like that's what we do practice is some more like informed days of like not tracking, just being able to have like 3 meals a day, hit your protein amount by eyeballing it. But yeah, in a deficit, 100%, like calories and macros, or at least calories and protein. In a build, again, calories and protein on the weekends.
Yeah, on the weekends. Like that's where you can get some flexibility on your weekends where we don't have to be on point with all 3 macros. Like it's obviously the number one, calories, making sure that we're hitting that energy intake and then a sufficient amount of protein. That itself can provide quite a bit of flexibility on the weekend.
What about
having some higher fats than what you would during the week and pulling back on some carbohydrates for personal preference?
What about eating out? I feel like that's one of the things that my clients, like new clients come on and they're like, I don't know how to manage this eating out thing, therefore I just didn't track because I didn't want to be inaccurate. Like,
is that because they don't know how to track or?
They didn't know how to track that particular meal. Like how would you navigate that?
Yeah, so it's like looking online. You can look online. There is actually a database that you can look at most meals. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is there now. Our notes. Do you remember what it's called?
NatTab?
No, not NatTab. That's in the MyFitnessPal. There is like online that you can search up certain meals that you're eating out, whether it's a pad thai and stuff, and it will give you the accurate, a pretty accurate
of most places.
Of most places, you know. And this is the thing. If we are eating out, it's going to be hard at times to be bang on. So we're trying to be as accurate as possible, giving ourselves a bit of a buffer zone. It's better than not trying to track at all. So you put that in, or you find a similar entry in MyFitnessPal that someone else might have put in there. But again, you want to try and reference that to see if it is accurate, because anyone can put obviously entries into MyFitnessPal and save it there. And if you can't do that, it's a quick add. And if that's what I've done, and I teach my clients, like, all right, how many calories am I going to allow for this meal? Is it going to be 1,000? Like, depending on what I'm having, is it high in fats? Is it going to be 800? And if you're unsure, and this is what Emily and I do, we'll tend to overcompensate. I'd rather be a little bit over than obviously blowing out the calories. So if I am doing a quick add on MyFitnessPal.
And usually we'll only use quick add for things like Thai, Indian, but even we could probably go to MyFitnessPal and find a relatively accurate. I think with eating out, it's better to be closer than not doing it at all. And that's like the takeaway is like, you're never going to be 100% accurate with tracking to begin with, because it isn't like all of the entries could be slightly wrong. Does that mean that we don't do it? Definitely not. It just means that we get as close as possible. And then I don't think you said this, but like we usually track in that meal out and then we backtrack the rest of that day. Therefore, we are not tracking our day and then getting to dinner and being like, oh fuck, I'm over by 400 calories. That's
silly. A good point. Yeah, if you're going out to a restaurant or you have a meal in mind with your partner, it's like what you need to look in the restaurant, for example, and go, that's the meal I want there. Yeah. That's going to fit in. I track that in first for that Saturday night and then work your way backwards, like Emily said. That's the best way to do it. From there, like I said, macros might be slightly off, but your next step is obviously meat calories, and then from there, try and get a sufficient amount of protein in.
And then for breakfast, that's actually something that we do quite often is eat a breakfast out, and we're creatures of habit, so we go to the same place most time, or we know, like,
depending on where we are.
Because it's tasty and we don't like changing something. What if we go somewhere it's not nice? Yeah. So we go somewhere that we really like, and usually we ask them what's in this meal, or how many eggs is in this, and they're happy to tell us. It's not like weird to ask that. It's not like obsessive, so whatever, like and then
depending on where we are and what phase
it depends on
how accurate we want to be.
In a deficit, I'm as accurate as I possibly can be. In a maintenance, I have a bit of flexibility. In a build, a little bit of flexibility, but I'm just trying to like meet my calories and my protein on the weekend, because again, it's quite hard to get that amount of calories in sometimes. But like guys, like if you do struggle on the weekends, this is a good opportunity for you to reach out to your coach, whether that be us or someone else, and get the help around that, because there's nothing worse than like getting to Monday and being like, why the fuck am I not getting results? That's super frustrating, and I've been in that position.
Or just not knowing what to do and just going YOLO on the weekend. That's the worst thing you can do. Self-sabotage. You're like, you know what? Pop one time, I'm going to go slash the other 3 on the car. Like no one's going to do that. So ask, get the education, get the support you need to tackle these issues.
Also,
that may pop up.
80-20 for me, I don't know, like you may be slightly different. 80-20 for me doesn't mean like 80-20 on the day all the time. 80-20 may be like I'm like super strict on it all the week, and then
Can you tell everyone what 80-20
80-20 is like 80% whole foods, micronutrient dense foods, and then 20% like soul foods, like
being processed foods.
yeah, processed foods, or like foods that you don't eat a lot of. And then I will have more of my 20% on the weekend. And that's just like, because during the week, I'm on it. I'm structured. I'm doing my thing. I have all my meals planned. On the weekend, I have a bit of flexibility. I'm just meeting calories and protein majority of the time outside of prep, of course.
Yeah, another thing for us as well, than what we teach clients and what we do ourselves, is on the weekend, if we are going out for dinner, generally we'll try and prioritise protein earlier in the day. So
yeah.
It's maybe there's smaller meals depending on how many calories we've got to work with, what phase we're in. But breakfast and lunch, prioritise protein, get some micronutrients in. A lot of the time, fruit and veg, because then when you go to dinner, you've kept fats reasonably low throughout the day, because whenever we have a meal out, they're generally higher in fat. So you have that buffer for more calories, more fats for that meal. You've already got a fair bit of protein in for the day and micronutrients, because a lot of the time when you go out for these delicious dinners, they're not probably your first choice,
Yeah, like a meal you had last night was like more like carbs and fats,
Yeah,
like
it was
pasta.
carbs and fats. So I had more protein after that meal, and I definitely hit my micronutrient intake before that last night.
Yeah, and these are the things like we've been doing this again for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So it takes time to learn these kind of tricks, but it's just about asking the questions and getting the right answers.
Hearing other people's approach, this is just our opinion, this is our approach.
And then other people have different approaches to it as well. All right, so I think we've covered that one. Anything else we want to add to that?
No. Weekends count. I think that's the take home right there.
They really do.
Like, weekends will bring you undone when you're trying to get results. So.
And I guess, like, how do we know this? Because we've been there. Like, I remember, like, when we first met, we would we were more in, like, the clean eating type camp, hey? Like,
and then we'd have a cheat day, back when cheat days were a thing. And I look at it, how stupid that is. Once we started studying nutrition and understanding how calories work, for some reason, we just thought they disappeared, like we had the cheat day.
Count.
We worked hard all week. It didn't matter when it got to Saturday and we'd train legs and then just go smash burgers, chocolate.
Dickhead. We'd have a pizza each.
But it was the thing back then.
Each.
Until 6 years ago, 5 years, that's what people did.
Yeah.
So we had this big overfeeding in calories, and also refined sugar and stuff like that, and felt like absolute shit on Sundays. And you wonder why results didn't progress as fast as they should have. And we look back on it now, obviously educated, going, what were we thinking?
What that led to was like for me, it was like severe under eating during the week to make up for what I was doing on the weekend. Because I wasn't just eating a lot for me, I was eating probably the same amount as Matt. So like my overfeeding was like 5,000 calories on a Saturday, and then like maybe 3,000 again on a Sunday. So it was a lot, and I wondered why my weight was like, whoa, and then...
Yeah, also that relationship as well,
where
it's like, I've got to eat really clean and boring through the week and then just gorge on the weekend.
I can't wait to Saturday because I'm going to like unleash.
That behaviour itself is just obviously not good.
And that is why we don't like the term cheat meals.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't encourage a good relationship with food whatsoever. And I don't care who you
and
are.
you ain't cheating the system.
Yeah, you're not cheating.
You're not cheating. You can't cheat it.
You're just cheating yourself, essentially. Yeah. And like...
cheating yourself in
I guess
results.
people in the cheat meal camp are probably like, well, what do you do? Like, when do you have these foods? Like, we just have them within our diet, within our macros.
Yeah, that's probably the funny. What's your favourite cheat meal? I'm like,
we don't have
I look at it and I'm like, man, I haven't thought about a cheat meal. Like, I can have whatever meal I really want. Like, would I be eating that every day? Like, if it is something higher in fats and carbs, like that I normally wouldn't eat, then probably not. But on the weekend, if I go out for dinner, I'll have it. Yeah. If there's a breakfast I want, I'll have it during the week. But I'm always looking at like, what's going to digest well, what's nutrient dense, what's, is it whole foods?
Maybe it's a getting over 30 thing. But like, prior to this, I didn't really care too much about what I was putting in my body or like the nutrition.
Was that because of lack of education though?
Yeah, definitely. I think you get more like, you're more reflective. And also we have a daughter, like we want to be around for as long as we can, and we want to be as healthy as we can for her.
Also, to her as well.
Also, we want to role model exactly what we want her doing. Do we want her like eating clean during the week and then like binging on the weekend? Like, fuck no, that sounds dumb as fuck. So... why would we do that as adults, right?
And so we want to teach her balance,
Yeah.
what is nutritious foods and what's foods that we probably still can enjoy but eat maybe less of.
Do you know what you said balance just then? And I thought there are so many people that are like, do you think what you do is really dangerous for your daughter, like in terms of competing? And I was like, not really. Probably what other people do in terms of like that same thing of like eating well during the week and then being cockheads on the weekend. Like that's
what, the dieting side of it?
Yeah, that's more dangerous.
Showing her commitment, showing her discipline. I don't think so. Not at all.
Most people don't call me.
So next one, let's move on.
I can't. Someone's trying to call me right now.
Well, moving on to the baby side of things, our beloved daughter, is almost 3, and it just seems to be bringing more and more challenges. As much as there's really good parts and highlights.
They said that 3 was
the terrible,
year.
yeah, 3s. I was like, 2s weren't too bad. Everyone went on about that, and we're like, oh, we handled that pretty well. Now, lately, it's just like the tantrums and that. You're just like, wow.
Do you know why though? It's like they're actually getting like a personality and you're actually having to parent. Like that is it. Like they're not potatoes that just kind of sit around and cry and shit.
I think it's still trying to explain the reasoning side of things and it's not quite capable of understanding that. So it's just trying to do... I know what the hardest thing for me is, but like what do you feel like is the hardest thing as a parent when she's having like a tantrum or doing her thing? I think it's me. It always tends to be when I have heaps of work to do or I need to get out of the house because everything we do is pretty structured. We have appointments, times, team meetings, videography, content, training, set times. And if I'm behind and she's trying to have a tantrum, it makes me so anxious because I'm like, I need to be able to let her sort this out and not rush it. But then there's sometimes I'm like, I fucking can't deal with this. We got to fucking go. I grab her and pick her up and screaming, putting her in the car screaming. And it makes me feel bad because I'm like, I haven't helped her try to navigate them feelings, but at the same time, this is the real world, and we don't have time to be always doing that. That's why Emily's like, this is what we should be parenting like this. And I'm like, that's in the ideal world, where you aren't running a business trying to be a pro athlete and have to go back-to-back meetings and try and get meals in. Doesn't mean we don't try. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, but it's difficult. And I think a lot of people...
There was a really good...
The perfect parent will never fucking exist, but doesn't mean you don't try.
There's definitely like the social media mums that are like, they're just that's a terrible.
Careful with this one.
They are a stay-at-home mum, which is a full-on job, right? But like, they have the time within the day for the child to wake up and to dawdle around and to do the things, and like, there's no like, they may have appointments and stuff, but like, we're having to get her up, before 8 o'clock to take her to daycare and stuff. And sometimes, like, I would love...
Earlier than that, 7.
Yeah, I'd love, like, the time to just be able to, like, let her, like, wake up and have breakfast and watch some TV and us to chat and all that stuff.
The weekends we get to.
So I think, like, social media, like, experts on children, like, sometimes it makes me feel really shitty because they're like, don't do this and don't do this and don't do this. And I think, like, I actually listened to a podcast, a human podcast, and it was about parenting. And it was fantastic, and I shared it on my socials, and I'll probably put it below this one. But it was essentially about, like, you are going to get angry. You are going to yell at your kids. You are going to be, like, not the great parent. What to do on the other side of that? Because that's what we need to know. We don't need to know, like, don't yell at your kids and don't do this, because that's not helpful sometimes, because we are human, and this happens. So what happens when we do that? And I think that was, like, fantastic parenting advice, because it takes away the shame and the guilt from a lot of what happens as an actual parent. Yeah.
It's how to navigate around that when it does happen and
the shitty parts. But that's really about it.
Yeah, it's the sleep side of things. That's where I was going with this whole thing. She's just regressed with the sleep side of things, and at the moment doesn't like to stay in her own room. I guess she just wants to be with mummy and daddy, which we're not used to because she was never, when she was younger, wanting to get me out of bed.
It's quite nice.
So it's sort of nice, but at the same time, when she comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning, she's can be wide awake sometimes. I'm like, it ain't time to party, darling.
So what did we do last week?
Well, I've been taking her into bed, back to bed most nights and sleeping with her.
We didn't do that at all. I got rid of her cot. I bought a double bed. I put it on the ground because I thought, we're in there anyway. Why not just make a whole thing about it? So now, she gets up at 2, 3 o'clock. we go back into there and sleep in there. It's actually colder in her room, so I feel like it's nicer to sleep in there than our room.
Emily went and bought this nice mattress. Shout out to, who is it?
Ecosa.
I know, it's no offense.
It's like koala Ecosa.
It is nice, but when you're 123 kilos on the floor, there's only one mattress that suits me, and that's the one on our king bed.
That's a Tempur mattress.
Tempur.
Yeah.
I sit on there, I'm like, oh, and then trying to get back to sleep, and then you get frustrated because I'm like, am I going to get back to sleep now? It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
So parents that are having lack of sleep at the moment, we hear you, we see you. And also, like, we know that it's, like, we're not shitting on our daughter right now because she's a goddamn angel, but it's just part of the 2-3-year-old thing, and it's a journey.
People don't talk about, like, they're worried, like, I don't want to sound like I'm whinging, I love my child. We all do, obviously, but it doesn't make it easy getting up a couple of times during the night and then trying to run businesses and make decisions when you and trying to train at a high level as well. Like, obviously, we talk all the time about how important sleep is, and ours is up to pretty, not because of our fault, but it's it's not obviously not optimal either.
So what we like to do to try and manage that as best as possible is, like, I do try to get to sleep a lot earlier. Like, Matt loves to binge watch Bloody Gentleman at the moment, so
I finished it, so very good.
He's up until 10:30, which is bad, man.
No way, 10 o'clock.
Anyway, I go to sleep at like 9, and he's like, "Why are you going to sleep?" Because at some stage,
because I spend like at least an hour to 2 hours
fucking around.
No, in the in the room with my daughter, getting her to sleep while Emily's out here getting social media ready for the next day, and then I come out and I'm like, I just need an hour to half an hour for me from that time. So I put the Netflix on sometimes, and then I have her screaming at me going, "I'm the bed, I'm the bed." I
don't sound like that. But yeah, it's all good. This too will pass. Right. Last topic for today. Did you want to touch on the lack of commitment these days, or did you want to talk about why eat more and lose weight is questionable advice?
No, but maybe lack of commitment.
Yeah, let's do it.
Lack of commitment from, like, you mean with clients, or are you talking about that?
Yeah, I
just
feel
in
like
general?
No, it's not even like these days. I feel like it's just a general overview of, like, when people are saying, I want to achieve, I get it in my inboxes literally every day because I talk a lot to a lot of people. I want to lose 10 kilos, I want to lose 20 kilos, I want to put on mass. And then when it actually comes to it and they have to be in a deficit and they have to be uncomfortable and they have to diet and they have to say no to social events, they're like, fuck, well, this is not what I want to do, or this is really hard. And, like,
I think, just to butt in, is like, we now live in an age where everyone expects things now and wants instant gratification. You know, everything these days is becoming easier and easier through, whether it's AI or technology in general, you know, taking the hard work out of it, taking the uncomfortableness, if that's a word, out of it. And that's where people go wrong. That's why there is no lack of commitment. They want that. Then when it gets hard, pretty fucking quick, or they actually have to do the work required, they don't like it. Or they have to be patient in order to achieve that gratification down the track, delayed gratification. They're not willing to do it. So I'm glad I came from, and I sound old saying this, from my time, where I have to fucking, I had to work 80? For everything. No, well, there are, but there are people my age that were brought up different to me that expect, they're entitled, and they're the ones that bitch and whinge all the time, as well as why they're stuck in their current circumstances. Where both you and I come from working class families where we weren't rich when we had to work for everything.
It's more so like what we were modeled, and I think like our childhood plays a huge role in how we are as adults. And I actually listened to something the other day, and it was like something as simple as like when kids are upset and they're crying and they want TV, we just like distract them straight away, and we're like, oh, quick, well, here you go, like something to soothe that. And what that's teaching them is like, I can't sit with uncomfortable feelings because mum and dad are going to come over and give me something to distract me. And that carries on into adulthood, because we're like, I can't sit in this uncomfortable like deficit because I want this thing now. Fuck it, I'll just eat that cheeseburger, or I'll just eat that bag of chips, because like, why am I like, this is uncomfortable and I can't like just sit for like, what is it? Delayed gratification. Yeah. And like we have very different childhoods to a lot of people. Not probably just to a lot of people,
but a lot of people have the same as us, you know. They're willing to get out there and do the work required in order to.
We started work early as kids. We weren't given a lot of stuff. Like, our parents were really hardworking, like, and that's what we were told. So therefore, like, when we came into bodybuilding and stuff, it's quite easy for us to grasp the idea of it because you work for something, you wait, you sow the seeds, you get it later.
Yeah, the harder you work, the bigger the reward. It's like the dividends pay themselves down the track. You know, you have to show up every day, not seeing a lot of change every day, but over a period of time that compounds.
Yeah.
And that's where we look back and reflect on, look where I've started over 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. That every day where I didn't feel like doing it, I turned up and I didn't think I was achieving anything, I now have. Look at what I've accomplished. So, yeah, commitment, you know, you have to commit to the goal that you want to, knowingly that it's going to be difficult, there's going to be obstacles to move around, it's going to be really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and like saying you're ready for something isn't like, I'm ready for something, I don't have social events for the next 8 weeks, I don't have this, nothing will happen, everything will be perfect. Like being ready actually means saying there are things that are going to show up and things that are going to, you know, knock me off my path, but I'm going to commit to working around these things. Because a lot of people say, I'm ready for this. Like, again, we work with a lot of people. I'm ready for this. As soon as like a kid gets sick, they're like, oh, I couldn't make my food, I couldn't track, I couldn't do this. And then there'll be
the girls at work had all the cakes and scones on the table. Like,
we went out for a dinner with friends, like, and then like the difference between two people, right, is like crazy. One person will be like that and every little obstacle will be like a big fucking problem. The other person, they will be like, hey, girls like took me out for dinner. I looked at the menu, I tracked in what I could, I made sure I met my calories for the day. Hey, my kid was sick. What I did was made sure I had my food ready, made sure I had their food ready. Maybe I skipped a gym session, but that's okay. Like, it's two same situations and two very different approaches, and this person's gonna fucking win in life, and this person's just gonna constantly really struggle. So like...
Because that other person, the second one, is not taking ownership of their own actions, their own responsibilities. You have control of that. So yes, we can acknowledge that it sucks and it's very difficult at times, but what's my next move?
Yeah.
What's my next move to work around this?
My favorite thing to always think about is like, okay, this sucks, but how can I move around it? And I think if everyone adopted that mindset, there would be like so many more people achieving, winning, getting better jobs, having better relationships, you know, achieving their physique goals. Because like, if we just take away that option of giving up and instill in them the belief in themselves that they can work around things, like that is wild for someone. So like that's what we
and it's also okay to make mistakes.
Yeah, it's so okay. Like mistakes are the only way that we actually learn. If we don't have mistakes, we can't level up in this world, right? Like
that approach didn't work. Okay, what do I need to change this time to get it right? You know, not like, oh, that didn't work, I give up, it's too hard. It's like, no, I just didn't get it right this time. Yeah.
And like in terms of coaching, if you find that like you're really struggling with things, communication is such a big thing. Like,
don't be worried about what your coach might think. The coach wants to know.
Yeah, we want to troubleshoot. Like troubleshooting is 99% of our job, and it's what we do best because we've obviously troubleshooted a lot in life. And that's why we're in this position. We haven't had an easy life. We've just been able to...
We're also working with a vast variety of clients as well, you know, different issues than what we've experienced, and help them work around and navigate that too.
Exactly. So, guys, if lack of commitment is a thing for you at the moment, think less about like it being perfect and having this perfect run, but rather how can I work around these obstacles and how can I make the most out of my situation? All right, guys, that was our podcast. Thank you for joining Chit Chat with Em and Matt.